And welcome to your home inspector training. I'm Garth Haslam, founder of the Home Medic. It's good to have you here as a Home Medic trainee. This will give you access. You have now access to the apprentice program. This is something that will allow you to be successful if you apply these tools as a home inspector. It gives you all of the basics. I've been doing, as you can tell, home inspections for a very long time. And I started back in 1993, so we're pushing 30 years now. I've learned everything, I've been there and seen that, and I've gotten very comfortable doing home inspections. But, spoiler alert, there comes a time when you burn out and you start looking forward to the thing that's next. And for me, this is the thing that's next, is training you how to do what I have done. And I'm looking forward to this. So here we go. Let's start with the spreadsheet that I have for you here. We're going to go over in this segment, we're going to go over what I call the business basics. Now this is the state registration. We're going to talk about corporations. We're going to talk about your IRS EID, and that's your employer identification. You can see that I have converted all of these URLs here to tiny URLs so that you can just pull them off of your screen and type them in yourself. I'll be going to each of these. We're going to be talking about getting bonded and insurance and what that means. We're going to talk about the good and bad side of getting a city business license and the bank account. Then we're going to talk about actually doing the cash. So this stuff is all quite boring. Who wants to talk about getting registered? Wouldn't we rather be talking about the nuances of how to find snakes in the attic? But this is something that has to be done. It's kind of like stepping on the home plate. There's not a lot of fanfare associated with it, but you gotta start with home base before you can do any singles or doubles or home runs. So going back to my spreadsheet, the first thing I want to talk about is doing the state registration. Now, obviously, there's a lot of states that we could be in, and each of those states is going to be different. The state that I'm in, Utah, has an online method of registration as a business. There are a number of different kinds of businesses, and the state that you're in should be working together with the IRS to get you an EIN and get you set up. Maybe you'll be forced to charge tax in some states, including the one that I'm in. There's no requirement if you're providing a service to charge tax. So you're going to have to identify whether that is the case for you, and then do all the tax requirements. Fun stuff. So the first thing I should mention is that I am not a lawyer. I am not a tax accountant. There's a lot of things I'm not, but and I'm kind of tiptoeing a thin line here. I could, from my point of view, I could stiff arm you and just say, here's this link, here's that link, here's a lawyer, do your homework. But to me, that can become very overwhelming, and it can be, oh my gosh, there's too much to this home inspection thing. I can't even step up to the plate. I don't even know what equipment I got to have to step up to the plate, and I don't know what the rules are, and I don't. I don't want to be the guy that basically tells you that I can help you, and then through the information that I do or don't provide, indicate that you should probably quit before you get your first strike. So I'm going to give you some assistance. It is not legal advice. It is not accounting advice. It is hearsay advice. It is experience. It is what I have learned for myself. And don't take it as gospel, but take it as guidance. And then go talk to your lawyer, and then go talk to your tax accountant. So options for you are, as far as your corporation is concerned, there's a C Corp, there's an LLC, and there's an S Corporation. And you can actually have an LLC that is an S Corporation. And we're going to talk about the differences between those. So the S versus the C Corporation. And again, not your lawyer, not your tax accountant. But from what I understand, the difference between an S and a C Corporation is that the C Corporation gets taxed. You get taxed twice. If you own the C Corporation, first the C Corporation gets taxed, then the profits go to you, and then you get taxed. And from my point of view, that kind of sucks. So I don't want to do that. Most of us are going to choose the S type corporation. Now, you can also have an LLC, and let's just go back to the computer here. So I have a link that you see here where it talks about the S Corporation versus the C Corporation. I have this tiny URL link. I'm going to hit it, and that's going to take us, well, maybe it's, let's just see if we can get that to do that. Maybe not. Why is that not doing that? Okay, well, it's not. So you can go there yourself. Pretty easy thing, and it's basically just going to show you one place where I Googled a question about the difference between a sub S and a C corporation. The sub S and the S corporation are the same thing, just depending on how lazy you are in speaking. And then there's a sub S and the LLC. And that can be the same thing. Again, it's the difference in how it is set up. LLC means limited liability corporation. Corporations provide you with some insurance against, or some protection against being sued. So if you have a corporation and it's set up, and let's say your corporation is Acme Inspections, Inc., when the company sues you, and again, this is my understanding, not a lawyer, when someone sues you, they're suing the company. And so they can get what the assets of the company are. And for me, that's my tool belt and my computer. So they would be hard pressed if they were suing me to get that. Again, did I mention that I'm not a lawyer? That is the gist of what I understand. Talk to your lawyer. So going back then to the difference between corporations, et cetera, that's these guys here. And the computer is misbehaving, of course. Going down to the IRS EID, employer identification number, I have a tiny URL for that. And that's basically how to get started as with the IRS as a business. And that will be required too if you want to get set up as any sort of a business entity. Now, I should mention corporation types. There's corporations, there's proprietorships, there's partnerships. A proprietorship is me working for myself under my own name, and if somebody wants to sue me, they sue me and everything I own. My house, my sporting goods in the garage, whatever's in my bank account personally, they have access to all of it if I have a proprietorship and they sue me. By comparison, a partnership is about the only thing that, in my opinion, is worse than a proprietorship, because now that means that I've got a partnership with a partner, and they can sue him, which also means they're suing me. And for example, if he owns nothing and I've got my prize collection of Mickey Mantle baseballs in the garage, maybe he's the guy that did something wrong, but it's me that might be losing my Mickey Mantle baseballs. You get the idea. And then partnerships, of course, you better make sure that partnerships can be more liability than a marriage. I hired a lawyer say something like that once, is from a financial perspective, in many cases, you're better off losing your spouse than your business partner, because it might cost you more to lose the spouse. Not a good idea, even if you trust that person implicitly, even if you got boundaries well defined. It's begging for legal liabilities. You don't want to do a partnership. You definitely, whether it's you or you and your wife or you and some other partner or some group, you want to do a corporation. So then you want to just decide which of those different types of corporations you want to do. Going back to the spreadsheet, getting bonded, I have a URL for that. That provides a discussion about what getting bonded means and why you might need it, and that is for you to decide. Also, insurance. I could have provided a link to some insurance place. There are plenty of them. NACHI is an awesome organization. I wholeheartedly endorse them. InterNACHI, INTERNACHI.org. They have so much great information, and I can't endorse them strongly enough. You will, that is one of the benefits that they have, and in addition to doing the home medic thing, I couldn't begin to, nor would I want to compete with the amount of content and guidance and assistance that they have. Now, what I do is different in helping you get started. They are more of a knowledge database, and I'm more of a online coach, we'll say. But you can never go wrong getting a NACHI membership and exploring that and using that membership well. Okay, city business license. Now, and again, it's going to vary from one part of the country, one state, one city to another. I've been doing, like I say, inspections for 29 years. There was once in one of the areas that I lived in during that time that I decided to try to get a business license. I don't remember what was my motivation to doing that, but somebody asked, so I thought, okay, I'll go get one. Resulted in a ton of grief, and it never benefited me. What it did do is land me, because I basically, on my city business license application, I told them that there would be no customers ever coming to my home. And that's true if you're a home inspector. But they didn't believe it, and they were like, if you're in business, then how can there never be a customer? So they didn't understand, and they hauled me in to talk to the city people about how that could be possible. And then I got my license, and it ended up being completely worthless. So again, it's I'm here giving you information. You can decide whether or not the rules are different in the city and the state that you're in. Maybe the realtors require it there. You might want to talk to one of the realtors or a few of them and just see if there's a reason why you need a city business license. For me, it makes even less sense than what I just described, because if you're living in, Cincinnati, and you're going to one of the suburbs, and let's call that Frederickstown, you're not in Cincinnati. You might have your Cincinnati business license, but you're in Frederickstown. So now why do you need a city business license, or do you need one in both? And if that's the case, then you're probably going to need a city business license in 30 different places. To me, that's unreasonable. So that is my line of thought on business licenses. Now, another thing you got to do is get a business account at your bank or credit union. This needs to be in your name. If you directly merge your inspection income with your personal bank account, then when you get sued, the judge, and again, not a lawyer, not an accountant, it is my understanding that the judge at that point looks at your dealings and says, okay, he is treating his business as if it was his personal thing. Therefore, even though he's registered as a corporation, I'm not going to allow him the same protections as his corporation should have provided, because he's not behaving like a corporation. So you've got to have a corporate account. And then you can transfer money from that business account to your account via dividends or payroll or whatever you're going to do, that becomes another discussion with your accountant on the best way to do that. My experience is that most single or small home inspectors don't really meet the radar for the IRS. But again, that's a discussion you're going to want to talk about with your accountant. Going back then, you're getting your business account at your bank or credit union. So that's a lot of the legals that you're getting set up with. Let's talk about this bottom one, actually getting the cash at your inspection. So there's a number of ways to do cash flow. And based on my experience, the way you don't do it is you don't, do the inspection and then send the report and then hope that they'll pay you. I've written off in the 90s, I wrote off, I don't know how many thousands of dollars of people who told me they would pay me and then never did, and finally it wasn't worth it. I would spend more time nagging them and asking about payment and setting up whatever appointments and listening to excuses than I actually spent doing the inspection. So there are ways to avoid that. In Utah, where I am, people tend to be pretty honest, and they try to prove to each other that they're honest. And so I don't feel like I have to ask for payment before I show up. I feel that's hard. And I want to give them as much trust as I hope that they will give me, and basically work from a handshake. But they still don't get the report before I get paid. So I will show up and I will do the inspection. At the end, I ask for payment. And when it comes to that, and I'll do that last, I'll say, okay, I need your email, and then we can talk about payment. And when it comes payment time, I just tell them I've got a line. I say I can do cash, check, credit card, PayPal, Venmo. And they're always pleased that I've provided them so many options. And it's not hard to get set up for all of those. You can do that too. Cash obviously is cash. You can take that. You may, maybe once a year, based on my experience, if they hand you cash, they may want to see a receipt. My first response is that, yeah, I'll send you a receipt with the inspection. If they want something right now, you have a couple of options. You can go to the dollar store, get a receipt book, and keep that in your truck and provide a receipt that way. Legally, it could be pretty much anything, but you don't want to look like an amateur. So cash check is obviously great. You can take it if you've got a bank or credit union, and you probably do, where you can just go home, take a picture of it, and it's deposited. That's not too bad. Credit card, there are a variety of credit card providers, but online I use Square. Square is easy. You've got card swipers that make it cool. There's a little 2x2 Square swiper that you can either tap or insert or whatever. It's wireless, so that you can have your phone in this hand and your little 2x2 card reader in this hand. You can hand this to them, they can do their thing, and you never have to touch their card, and they're impressed by the technology. And it's 3%, but is what it is. PayPal is very similar to that. I don't get very many people that ask for PayPal. And Venmo is awesome. At least half of my clients will pay me via Venmo because it's easy for them and free for me. And then I can run that directly into my account. It takes about a day. Here in the West where I am, everybody has Venmo. I understand in other parts of the country, Venmo is less trusted. If so, then it may be less of an option for you. But the people who have Venmo will probably want to choose that. And it's free. With the exception of the card reader, it's free and it's awesome. Now, technically, they are supposed to swipe that it was a service, and when they do, then you're going to be charged 3%. As a matter of experience, that doesn't happen very often. I'm going to say that, out of every 100 inspections, one or less, they're going to swipe that and cost you that 3%. If so, then it's not worse than another online payment method like Stripe. Now, if you've got Spectora, for example, they try to automate that for you, and they're going to go on, they're going to book their stuff with you, they're going to get whatever contract, and they're going to pay, and they're going to get all prepped. So if you've got Spectora or some other home inspection software packages, then that will take care of that for you and automate that. So those are your options. In this segment, we've talked about all of the legals that are associated with getting started. And yeah, it's not fun, but you got to do it. And it's you can hire somebody depending on what your qualifications are. You can do it yourself. You can even set up your own corporation. It's doable. You can do it. If you've got enough. As home inspectors, we're kind of expected to know everything about everything. Everything about electrical, everything about spiders, everything about roofs, everything about meth and mold and so on. So if you feel capable, then I'm not going to tell you don't do it. It's it's kind of the way we roll. If you want to hire somebody, you got the nickels to do it, then by all means. What I find, however, is that most of us that are getting started in home inspections are doing so because the job that we have didn't pay well enough. We need more nickels, and we don't have thousands of dollars for lawyers. It's a trade-off. It is. There are, if you don't have a lawyer do it, you may be less protected. If you don't have the money to do it, and it's a matter of I can't afford to even get started because I can't afford the lawyer, then that's a decision you've got to make. In future segments, we're going to talk about branding and tools and all kinds of good stuff that specialization, marketing, engaging the clients and reports. We're going, like I say, it is not just about the knowledge. These particular segments, I have a couple dozen hours plus of segments about the knowledge you got to have, how to know about electrical issues and double taps and buses and wiring and gauges. But that's not even half of what you've got to know so that you can succeed as a home inspector. The knowledge, yes, I help you with that. But to succeed, to get the phone to ring, that's where I come in. I'm looking forward to working with you.